We wanted Boston. We get Boston. Our first look at a Sabres Bruins playoff series coming up on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in to this Wednesday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Of course, wherever you're listening, we are free and available, and you can watch us on YouTube. If you would like to watch along, hit that like and subscribe button. Always appreciating that. And, of course, our Locked On Sabres Discord, which is a lot of fun right now, as well as ad-free versions of the show, other perks, all of that. If you become a part of our Locked On Sabres Everydayers Club. The site for that, sign up, a couple bucks a month, is lockedonsabres.supercast.com. Sneaky Joe DiBiase on today's show. Our first look at the first playoff series in show history and for Sabre fans and the Sabres in 15 years, really, right? 2011 to 2026. First playoff series in a long time. It's the Bruins. And there's a lot to get to on this series, the feeling of the series, the rivalry. I'm excited to go down memory lane a little bit with guys that we hated in Boston, guys that we're going to learn to hate, like Nikita Zadorov, I believe, is going to be on top of that list, but lots of time to get to that. And also, we, of course, are still tracking when these games are going to take place. I continue to believe that Saturday at either 2 o'clock or 5 o'clock is what we're going to get for game one. Did make a bit of a discovery today, just looking through the arena schedules and whatnot. Oh, there's a Demi Lovato concert in Boston on Wednesday. So game 3 is not going to be on Wednesday. It can't. So if it's either going to be Saturday, Monday, extra day off, Thursday, which you do get in the playoffs where they give an extra day of rest between traveling, or you could, I don't think it's going to be Sunday, but if it was Sunday, you could get Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. No matter what, I think game 3 is going to be on Thursday, which would be a conflict with the NFL draft if you're a big football fan. Although the Bills should have their pick in after the Sabres playoff game would end. So that's a decision you'll have to make, though, on what you're watching. Maybe you're both at the same time. You know, maybe if you're in the media space like me, it's more of a thing for you than it is for a Bills and Sabres fan. Because, again, it should line up where the Bills pick is about an hour after the Sabres game would end. But you never know. There's overtimes and whatnot. So a lot to get to on today's show. We also will touch on Sabres and Stars, which we get that final regular season game, fan appreciation night, Tage Thompson bobblehead night as well, and some updates on the lineup and what to really be rooting for in tonight's game. To me, it's pretty easy. That at the end of today's show as well. But let's jump right into it on the Bruins. I have been banging the drum for the Bruins. Really, it's always been them or the Red Wings for me. Like, along these races that we've seen at the bottom of the standings, which the Sabres really separated themselves from after the Olympic break. And it was always, who do you want to play? You don't want to play Tampa. You'd like to not play Montreal. You didn't want to play Ottawa. I didn't want to play Ottawa. Maybe somebody out there is saying goaltending is going to fall apart for them. I'll play the Senators. And that was perfectly acceptable. But for me, the teams that were the most likely for Buffalo to play, that were the most favorable, were always Detroit and Boston. Those were the teams. Bad teams analytically, not as strong roster-wise as the Sabres present. And in one category, with one side, Boston, you've got a goalie to worry about, but I'm okay taking my chances if I feel the Sabres are the better team, and significantly even the better team. And I think that was definitely true of the Red Wings, but they miss. They do their normal thing of blowing it in the final months of the season, and they lose out. The Bruins jump in and winning last night against the Devils, clinch it, that they're going to be wild card one. And that game was over right into the first intermission. And I was pumped for that game because I was rooting for them. That's the team I want to play. I didn't want to see Ottawa. So, all right, let's go. Bruins and Devils and bang, 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 bang. 4-0, first intermission. And it's, okay, I guess they're going to play the Bruins. And, make sure it's official. We don't get any crazy comeback. And then it is made official. They win the game. And we get Boston and Buffalo, which that series in 2010 is the second to last playoff series if you are a Sabres fan. By the way, it's the 28th to last playoff series if you're Boston. I was listening to the broadcast, and they threw it to the color commentator asking, this was the Bruins broadcast, what do you remember about the 2010 series? And he's like, nothing. Like, nothing came to mind off the top of his head. I mean, you ask me about that series or an average Sabre fan, you might remember that's the series that Miroslav Shatan went off at age 35. Or that's the series that Johnny Boychuk took out Thomas Vanek early on in that series, game 2, and the Sabres couldn't score the rest of the way because they weren't really deep with goal-scoring talent, and Boston took out their number one goal scorer. That's the series Chara was wearing a cage at the beginning of the playoffs, and Rafi Torres had him in a headlock at one point because Chara couldn't really fight back at all. Like, there were these little things that happened along the way, and they lose in 6. But Bruins broadcast, I don't remember anything about it. And you know what? That's kind of fair. It's easy for me because there's only one playoff series in between the two Bruins series. Boston's had 27 playoff series since they played the Sabres in 2010. They've had this long period of contention and being one of the best teams in hockey. They truly have been. Since that series 16 years ago, they have been one of the premier franchises in the National Hockey League. They always make the playoffs. They're always challenging for Stanley Cups. They have been to the Stanley Cup Finals. They won one pretty soon after they played that series against Buffalo. But why I wanted to play the Bruins, I don't believe they are near the same team that they were for all of those years with Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci and Brad Marchand and Zdeno Chara and Milan Lucic and Tuukka Rask. They're not that team anymore. That team was great. That core of Bruins there's a ton of Hall of Famers in that group. This group is not the same. You really only have a small amount of carryover. David Pastrňák. I got all the respect in the world for David Pastrňák, and he's one of the best forwards in the National Hockey League. And he's, I think, a better forward than anything the Sabres have. I would put him a little bit above Tage Thompson, pretty close, but Pastrňák, I think, is the best forward in this series. Charlie McAvoy is great, Olympian, and both of these guys are top talents that were still there as rookies or second-year guys when the Bruins were still one of those true Stanley Cup contenders. They had that 130-point year, and those guys have played some playoff games. Like, McAvoy's played 91 playoff games going back to 2017. He played as a 19-year-old for the Bruins. Pastrňák, of course, he's been to the finals. He's not won the Stanley Cup, but he has been to the finals, and he has played 90 playoff games. Same year for him as a 20-year-old, 2017. That's when those two got in together. So all the respect in the world for those two. Those are great hockey players. But the rest of it, to me, there's no real difference in experience between them and the Sabres otherwise. There's not big differences. When you're looking at Morgan Geekie or Pavel Zacha or even Victor Arvidsson to some extent, James Higgins, I think he's actually immediately one of their better forwards, and he's a guy who just showed up in the NHL. You don't have this long list of proven winners on the Bruins roster outside of Pastrňák and outside of Charlie McAvoy. So I look at their group and think, yeah, they're not that on reputation, and they just can't match the depth of talent that the Sabres do. I think the Sabres are a 3-line team, and I think the Bruins are a 1-line team. And oftentimes, the 3-line team is going to dominate the 1-line team. That did not happen this regular season. It's been pointed out a lot today. The Bruins won the season series 3-1 against the Buffalo Sabres, and that is true. However, Two of those games were right out of the gates. Bruins beating the Sabres on October 11th, the second game of the year, and then beating them on October 30th in overtime. The Sabres losing in overtime in that one. Then they played on December 27th after the Sabres got hot, and the Sabres beat them pretty good, 4-1 at home. And then finally, you have the most recent matchup, which is probably the most scary result because the Sabres lost that game. If you remember back to March 25th, 4-3 overtime loss, Sabres played one of their worst games that day. And I actually remember taking a little bit of a moral victory the following day because I thought that is as poorly as the Sabres can play. Their effort, the turnovers they had, it was just as bad as it gets for the Sabres. And they still went to overtime with that team. They still went to overtime. And they lost in a 3-on-3 overtime, which they were very bad at all year long. But you're not going to play 3-on-3 overtime the next time you have that game. If you make it to overtime, you'll get your 5-on-5. So, and by the way, they had a lead late, 6 minutes to go, not like super, super late, and they weren't able to close it out. So, I don't know. I'm not really that afraid of that game to be worried about this series. I look at this series, and again, I look at the rosters, and I look at the Sabres' depth versus the thinness of the Bruins roster. I look at Boston being 28th in the NHL this year in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. I look at the fact that the Bruins have been outshot this season at 5-on-5 by their opponent. I look at scoring chances, how the Bruins have given up more scoring chances this season than they have themselves. Just they don't really impress in any of these categories. And their special teams is fine when you look at both combined, but it's not, oh man, that could be the big X factor of this series. Their power play is better than Buffalo's. They're 9th in the NHL this year, 23%. Buffalo's 19th is where they finished the year. But their penalty kill stinks. Their penalty kill is 24th in the NHL, which is second worst of any Eastern playoff team. Only Ottawa is actually lower than them. That's surprising. But 24th for Boston. So 9th power play, 24th penalty kill versus Buffalo, 19th power play, 4th penalty kill. Special teams, I wouldn't really want to give a push to either side if you're going to combine the two. So where does Boston really have an advantage? And I wouldn't say it on their blue line. I know I've been focusing on the forwards here, but I like McAvoy a lot. But other than that, Mason Lohrei and Hampus Lindholm, okay. Zadorov is big and mean, but turns the puck over a lot. They're not it's not the Sabres blue line. Not even close. They are a kind of like the forward group. It's a one-man show. Pastrňák up front, McAvoy on the blue line. I think maybe that's exaggerating a little bit, but because I think Lindholm is a good player. I do think some of the guys up front, both Lindholms, really, I guess, if you want to go offense and defense, Elias and Hampus. I think Fraser Minton's a fine player. Morgan Geekie's a good goal scorer. They've got good guys, but they are way closer to a one-man show at both units. Pastrňák up front and McAvoy on the blue line. The one advantage they've got on paper, actually not on paper, maybe in your mind is the only place they really have the advantage, is in net. And I want to talk about that when we come back. Swayman versus Luukkonen, coming up on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by 5 Hour Energy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why Cotton Candy 5 Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. It's a classic cotton candy taste that you remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. That's a great flavor, right? Cotton candy is a great flavor. Everybody loves cotton candy. But you can't always be eating sweets all day. So perfect alternative for that. The flavor really brings that throwback fruity vanilla vibe, surprisingly smooth as well. You got to love how convenient it is. Little small portable shot. You can grab whenever. And if you need a little pick-me-up, you can take it with you. And it can really be your go-to when you want something sweet without going overboard. So bring on the sweetness with cotton candy 5-Hour Energy Shots. Available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is also presented by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who will actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. In the minute I've been talking to you, or in the few seconds already, it's been 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit if you go to Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed right here on Locked On Sabres. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We have our matchup. It's going to be the Sabres hosting the Bruins in games 1 and 2 before they go back to Boston for 3 and 4, and we will see what we get from there. Do not believe the Bruins have an advantage up front. Not even close. On the blue line, not even close. Special teams, push. Goaltender. Goaltender is the scariest part of the Bruins. They have a guy that is absolutely capable of stealing a series on his own. Jeremy Swayman has been one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League, really ever since he became a regular in the 21-22 season. Sans last year, 24-25, he had that contract dispute with the Bruins. They remember Cam Neely was coming after him for. Cam Neely, who runs the Bruins, was talking bad about him in press conferences, and then he finally signed like really, really late in the offseason, showed up, and he allowed more goals than anybody in the NHL last year and had a career-low .892 save percentage, which was by far the worst mark of his NHL career. So bad year for Jeremy Swayman. And they did not make the playoffs. They were the worst team in the Eastern Conference, and that was a big reason for it, because they're a team that's very built through how good their goaltender is right now, and the goaltender wasn't very good, so the team wasn't very good. This year, he's back. He's awesome. One of the best goalies in the league, and has really fueled their year and has made them one of the best teams in hockey. The Bruins are actually not like the best team in the league or one of the elite teams in the league at preventing scoring chances, at stopping high danger chances. They are not this super talented, good lockdown defensive team. They have very good numbers at preventing goals this year, mostly because of this guy. And a .907 save percentage is not anything to really be wowed by. It's good. It's above average, even well above average, but it's not, you've seen guys, Ullmark even there in Boston had, I think, something in the 930s a couple of years ago. You've absolutely seen better box score numbers from these goaltenders. But when you look at goals saved above expected, which is trying to really take into account, okay, well, what is he facing? How many chances are the Bruins allowing? And again, the Bruins are allowing more chances than some of the best defensive teams in hockey. So on that, Swayman's the third best goalie in the league by total. 52 goals save above expected in 55 games. I mean, essentially, Jeremy Swayman is preventing a goal a game that probably should be going in. And that is a massive advantage if you're a team like Boston. It's really how you can have the year that you're having. If you look at what Swayman has done on a per game basis, because that's total, 52 goals saved above expected in 55 games. If you want to go by per 60 minutes, then he ends up being the 5th best goalie in the NHL this year. Among guys that have played at least 15 games, you only have Logan Thompson above him, Devin Cooley, former Sabre, amazingly, and Ilya Sorokin. That's it. So, I missed one, didn't I? Justus Anunen from Nashville's the other one who's had a big year in only 28 games. So easily one of the best goalies in hockey. And he, of course, has done that playing a ton of games. 55 games this year is a lot for a number one goalie these days. So Swayman is the guy. But even though he's dangerous and even though he's great, do I even want to call that an advantage? Or how about a significant advantage? I can give it to you for sure. I'm not a big Luukkonen guy. I never really have been, but I'll give it to him. He's been awesome this year and fully deserving of being their game one starter and really the playoff goalie, not just game one. Like, you ride with him in these playoffs. He still makes me a little nervous, and that's mostly because he's always kind of been an inconsistent goaltender. He's had good years. Well, he had one before this year. And he's had good months, and then he's had bad months, and he's had great games followed by bad. He's just not the most consistently sound goalie in the league. And that doesn't mean he's not good and isn't having a good year this year. It just, to me, means he's not as trustworthy as Jeremy Swayman is. Swayman has been in the league now really for 5 full years, and he's had 4 great ones. Luukkonen, on the flip end of that, and by the way, Swayman, in addition to that, has been an awesome playoff goalie. His playoff numbers are also through the roof. Luukkonen, meanwhile, has played 4 full years in the NHL and 2 for 2. You just have a higher hit rate. You have a higher level of trust in Swayman. But that doesn't mean that right now he's playing a lot better. Right now, they're pretty close. All those numbers I just went through about how good Swayman is, Luukkonen's right behind him. Luukkonen, especially if you want to go per game, because Luukkonen didn't get to play as many games this year as Jeremy Swayman did. He ends up being 14th in the NHL this year. So, okay, 5th versus 14th. One is certainly better than the other. But we're not talking about the Sabres are not Ottawa. League worst goaltending. We're not talking about a team that has a guy that's really low and it's a true weakness of theirs. No, goalie's been a strength this year. And just because your strength isn't as powerful as their strength, it doesn't make it a significant advantage. I think it's a slight advantage for Boston. And that presents, of course, the chance that, well, if Luukkonen can match Swayman, and I think save for save, and I think that's possible, even maybe there's a good chance of it, there's no way Boston's winning this playoff series. There's simply no way. The only way Boston is winning this playoff series, in my opinion, and this could happen, but the only way is if Swayman far and away outplays Luukkonen. He has to be significantly better than Luukkonen. And I just wouldn't predict that that's going to happen. I think Luukkonen will be close to, if not as good as Jeremy Swayman in this series, and the Sabres will win this series. I'm very bullish on the matchup. I think that the Sabres got the best draw that they could have gotten, given the way the East shook out. I think they're playing the worst team in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Second worst. Philadelphia probably the worst. But Boston in that same tier. We have a lot more to get to on this series. We have a couple of days here before it gets rolling. We will get more in depth on how the Bruins play, their system. Was talking and reading with Jack Hahn, who is a coach in hockey that wrote a book about all these teams and how they play this year. And he has some really interesting things to say about the way the Bruins play, how it will match up with the Sabres. So I also want to get to how Lindy's going to go about one-line team over there in Boston. What do you want to do? You want to bet on Power and Byram breaking even with them and then going Dahlin Samuelsson cooking another line, or do you want to go Dahlin Samuelsson against Pastrňák? So many coaching matchup stuff that I'm really excited to talk about. But we got one more regular season game. So when we come back, let's give you our last regular season game preview of the year against the Dallas Stars, where health should be prioritized. That when we return here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode is presented by Rocket Money. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, Where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. That's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It will track all your subscriptions, one spot. You can cancel the ones that you don't need with just a couple of taps. Automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going. And you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. Just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money, a personal finance app that'll help you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitor the spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach those financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. All right, wrapping up the regular season here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Short and sweet. We have our bet of the night locked in, the plus money on the year, or in that we have won more than we have lost. We stayed there all year. We kind of broke even after the first week of the year on. I mean, it's big wins early on, but even that's fine. Plus 6.5 on the year is what I got, 6.5 units. So when you are looking at tonight's game, Sabres and Stars, I'm just going with the under. Minus 130. I know it's in the minus, but two teams not playing for anything, probably playing depths of their roster. There's no prop bets up for tonight anyway, because nobody knows who's going to play. I'm just going under. Under 6.5 goals for this game. Plus, you get Colton Ellis in net, and the guy's coming off a shutout. That is one thing we know about tonight. Colton Ellis in goal. I want the Sabres to play as conservatively as possible, and I believe Lindy Ruff sounds like he's going to play it as conservatively as possible. So he said in the press conference, he gave an example of Dallas last year. Dallas, in their final game of the year, not really playing for anything, they lost an important player. I meant to look who that was. I don't remember who it was, but they lost an important player, and they learned that lesson, I'm sure, so they'll play it that way. But for tonight, it appears as though, given who stayed out at practice longer, which should give you an indication of who's a scratch, Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, Matthias Samuelsson, Jason Zucker, and Ryan McLeod, probably all going to be healthy scratches. And then Luukkonen, of course, will be the backup and will not see the ice. You can't just call up all of Rochester. There is a limit. Sadly, found this out this week, or was reminded of it this week. I think I knew it. But 4 call-ups that aren't emergency call-ups. And because you would have no injuries here, these wouldn't have qualified as emergency call-ups. Could they have used one? Maybe. But I think you're going to get Tanner Pearson tonight. You're going to get Josh Dunn tonight. You're going to get Tyson Kozak tonight. You're going to get Connor Timmins and Luke Shen and maybe Michael Kesselring as well. Probably 7 defensemen, right? Power, Byram, Stanley, Shen, Timmins, Metza, and Kesselring. And I think it's not just about who's out of the lineup. What I'm hoping for tonight is the guys that are in, that kind of have to be in, should really play limited minutes. Josh Norris, he'll be in tonight's lineup, probably. He should play 5 minutes. Alex Tuck, Jack Quinn, Josh Doan, Zach Benson. These guys should play 10 minutes, roughly. And maybe that doesn't leave enough minutes, or does that put too much on the plate of Kozak, Dunn, Pearson? Those 3, I would love to see play 20 to 25 minutes tonight. Hammer them. Play them all the time. Give them a reward. You get to play a ton of minutes. We'll put you on the power play even if you want. Malenstein blocked a shot the other day. I wouldn't even like to see him play a lot. Greenway's dealt with injuries this year. I think you could probably middle it with him like 16, 17 minutes. Krebs maybe like 12, 13, 14 minutes. But Norris, Tuck, Doan, to me would be priority 1. Those 3 forwards, play him as little as possible. If you got to play Benson, Krebs, and Quinn a good amount, then I guess like you got to play somebody. And on the blue line, it's easy. Power and Byram should play like nothing. Give them 10 minutes. Give them 9 minutes. Play Shen, play Metza, play Timmins, play Kesselring, play Stanley. Those guys, especially if you're going 7 defensemen, which I think is what they'll do tonight, they should be hammering those guys in the lineup. So don't worry about winning the game. You want to give fans something to cheer about. They're going to the game, bobblehead night, fan appreciation night, but I just wouldn't be worried about the result. The goal of tonight should be get out healthy. 100%. Get out healthy, and in particular with the guys that are usually playing at the top of the lineup that have to play tonight. But I think it's a good job by Lindy Ruff to pick out those guys Tage and Dahlin specifically and make sure that they're not even at risk at all. Okay, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. More Sabres and Bruins content coming, of course. We'll find out the rest of the league and who makes the playoffs in the next couple of days. This is what we're waiting on. And then, of course, when the Sabres play, we'll that will do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Check it out. Our Locked On Sabres Everydayers Club. Go to Locked On Sabres. Podcast. Talk to you then. You're in the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 sports podcast network.